The bronze tank gleamed under the Georgia sun like a warning. Robert Hastings stood 20 feet from his own monument and felt nothing. Not pride, not satisfaction, just the familiar hollow ache that had lived in his chest for 33 years. Fort Benning spread out before him in perfect military order. 2,000 people filled the parade ground, dress uniforms sharp as knives, American flags snapping in the April breeze, CNN cameras capturing every angle. The Army had spared no expense for this dedication ceremony. Heroes needed monuments. Monuments needed spectacle. Robert was 67 years old. He wore his Medal of Honor on a navy blazer that cost more than most soldiers made in a month. His hair had gone silver but remained regulation length out of habit. His shoulders still carried the posture of command, even though he had not worn a uniform in 24 years. People saw a decorated veteran, a pillar of the defense community, a man who had done his duty and worn it well. They did not see his hands. Robert's hands shook. They had shaken for 33 years, not constantly, not enough for cameras to catch. Just enough that he noticed every single day. Just enough that holding a coffee cup required concentration. Just enough that signing autographs at veteran events meant pressing his palm flat against the table to steady the pen. The doctors called it essential tremor, a neurological condition. Nothing to do with stress or trauma, just age and nerves. Robert knew better. The monument depicted an M1 Abrams tank at full combat posture. Turret traversed right, main gun elevated at the killing angle. Every rivet and hatch rendered in perfect detail. The sculptor had spent 18 months getting it right, had interviewed Robert for hours about the Battle of 73 Easting, had measured actual Abrams tanks at 3 different bases, had consulted combat footage and after-action reports. The result was flawless and completely dishonest. A brass plaque mounted on Georgia granite told the story. Robert had written most of it himself 3 months ago. The Pentagon had edited for clarity. A public affairs officer had polished the prose. Everyone agreed it captured the moment perfectly. Battle of 73 Easting, February 26, 1991. Captain Robert Hastings commanding Charlie Company, 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. In 3 minutes of intense combat, Captain Hastings destroyed 9 Iraqi T-72 tanks, saving the lives of 127 American soldiers. For conspicuous gallantry under fire, Captain Hastings was awarded the Medal of Honor. His actions exemplify the highest traditions of the United States Army. 200 letters carved in metal, every single one a lie. The Army Chief of Staff approached the podium. General Morrison was 58 and looked 40. Lean and hard from decades of command. 3 stars gleaming on each shoulder. A chest full of ribbons that meant he had been everywhere and done everything. He commanded respect just by existing. Morrison's voice carried across the parade ground without amplification. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow soldiers, we gather today to honor extraordinary valor, to remember a day when American armored forces proved their dominance on the modern battlefield, to celebrate a man who exemplified everything we ask of our commanders: courage under fire, decisive action, unwavering commitment to mission and men. Robert stood at attention beside the monument, his hands clasped behind his back where the tremor could hide, his face composed in the expression he had perfected over 3 decades. Humble pride, quiet dignity, the look of a man who had done his duty and wanted no glory but accepted the honor on behalf of those who served beside him. It was his best performance. The Battle of 73 Easting lasted less than 20 minutes, Morrison continued. But in that crucible of steel and fire, Captain Robert Hastings demonstrated the kind of leadership that wins wars. When his company faced superior numbers of Iraqi armor, he did not hesitate. He did not falter. He closed with the enemy and destroyed them. The crowd murmured approval. Veterans nodded. Young soldiers looked at Robert with the kind of awe that made him want to vomit. Morrison gestured toward the bronze tank. This monument does not just commemorate a battle. It commemorates a standard, a reminder that when Americans are led by men of character and competence, we are unbeatable. Captain Hastings set that standard. Today we ensure it endures. Applause rolled across the parade ground like thunder. Robert stepping forward, he had prepared remarks. 4 minutes of gratitude and humility, thanking the Army for the honor, praising the men who served beside him, acknowledging the sacrifice of those who did not come home. Standard hero speech. He had given versions of it 100 times at veteran events and defense contractor conferences and patriotic banquets where people paid $500 a plate to hear war stories. He looked at the bronze tank, at his monument, at the lie cast in metal. Then he looked past it to the rows of soldiers, young faces full of belief. They thought they were seeing what right looked like. They thought monuments got built for men who deserved them. Robert's hands shook harder. He gripped the podium and began the speech he had memorized. Words about duty and honor and the privilege of command. His voice steady and strong, his delivery perfect. Every pause calculated for effect, every phrase designed to inspire. He finished a standing ovation. The general shook his hand. Photographers captured the moment. A young sergeant asked for an autograph. Robert signed his name on a program while pressing his left hand flat against his thigh to stop the shaking. The bronze tank watched him with blind metal eyes. 2 hours later, Robert sat in first class on a flight to Washington. He had refused the Pentagon's offer of military transport. He needed the anonymity of commercial aviation, needed the distance. The young soldier in the seat beside him was absorbed in his phone. Robert stared out the window at clouds. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Chen, his assistant. Sir, CNN interview confirmed for Thursday. Also, Senator Bradley's office called about defense appropriations testimony next month. And Jennifer Chen from Paramount Pictures wants to discuss technical advisor contract. She's persistent. Robert deleted the message without responding. His phone buzzed again. This time an email notification. No sender name, no subject line. Robert almost deleted it unread. Hollywood producers and journalists and people wanting favors had learned his personal email somehow. He deleted a dozen garbage messages every day. But something made him open this one. The email contained no text, just an attachment. A video file labeled 73 Easting Cam 3 FFB 91 MP4. Robert's hands went completely still. Camera 3. There had been no Camera 3. The Army had mounted 2 combat cameras on command tracks during the Gulf War. Camera 1 captured the battle from behind Charlie Company's position. Camera 2 had been on a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle 400 meters to the left. Both recordings were classified for 8 years, then released to military historians in 1999. Robert had seen both recordings 100 times, had used them for presentations and interviews. They showed exactly what he needed them to show. Chaos and smoke and Iraqi tanks exploding. Nothing clear enough to contradict his version of events. There was no Camera 3. Robert closed his laptop. He would not watch this on an airplane, not where anyone might see, not where he could not control his reaction. The plane touched down at Reagan National at 6:40 p.m. Robert took an Uber to his Alexandria penthouse, 1,500 square feet of glass and steel overlooking the Potomac. He had bought it 10 years ago with defense contractor money. The place cost more per month than he had made in a year as an Army captain. He poured 3 fingers of Blanton's bourbon. Single barrel, 90 proof, the kind of whiskey that cost $120 a bottle and tasted like smoke and regret. Then he opened his laptop. The video file was 19 minutes and 42 seconds long. The timestamp showed 1430 hours, February 26, 1991. 4 frames per second. Grainy combat camera footage. The angle looked north across open desert. In the distance, geometric shapes that could only be vehicles. Robert's hand moved to close the laptop, to delete the file, to pretend he had never seen it. Instead, he pressed play. The first 10 minutes showed exactly what he remembered. Desert floor rushing past, the distinctive wedge shape of an M1 Abrams turret in the foreground. Dust clouds blooming as the company raced toward contact. Then the sudden appearance of Iraqi T-72 tanks, boxy Soviet designs that looked primitive next to American equipment, but carried 125 military guns that could kill anything on the battlefield. Robert watched his company deploy from column into line. Perfect execution. He had trained them well. Whatever else was true, that part was real. Then the shooting started. Thermal bloom filled the screen as main guns fired. The Abrams carried a 120-millimeter smoothbore cannon that could punch through 3 feet of steel at 2,000 meters. Iraqi tanks began exploding, secondary detonations as ammunition cooked off. Black smoke marking each kill. Robert counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. He took a long drink of bourbon. 5, 6, 7, 8. His hands started shaking again. 9. The 9th Iraqi tank erupted in flame at 14 minutes, 18 seconds. Robert could see his own tank in the frame, could see the turret position, could see the barrel angle, could see that his gun was not aligned with the target when it died. The kill shot came from 300 meters behind his position. A different Abrams, a different crew. Robert paused the video. He needed to see this exactly right, needed to understand what the camera had captured. He rewound 30 seconds and played it again. Frame by frame this time, the Iraqi T-72 turned its turret toward Robert's tank. The threat was real, the danger immediate. Robert's tank fired, but the round went high, missed by 2 meters. The Iraqi began to traverse back toward easier targets. Then a second Abrams fired. The round entered the T-72's turret ring at the perfect angle, the weak point every tank commander knew about but rarely got a clean shot at. The Iraqi tank convulsed like a living thing and died. Robert knew that second tank, knew it by the bumper number barely visible in the thermal scope, knew it by the position in the formation, knew it by the impossible accuracy of the shot. Bravo 4, his gunner Sergeant David Reeves commanded the gun on Bravo 4. The video continued. 15 seconds later, an RPG struck Bravo 4's turret. Iraqi infantry that no one had seen in the chaos. The rocket penetrated the thin top armor and detonated inside. Robert watched David Reeves die for the 9,000th time. He finished the bourbon and poured another glass. The video had 17 minutes of additional footage. Robert forced himself to watch all of it. Needed to see if there were other revelations, other moments that contradicted the official story. At 17 minutes 40 seconds, the camera caught something Robert had forgotten. An Iraqi tank commander climbing out of his disabled vehicle, hands raised, uniform burned, face blackened with smoke but clearly surrendering. The name patch on the Iraqi's uniform was barely legible in the grainy footage. But Robert had seen that face before. In nightmares. In quiet moments when his guard was down. In every reflection that looked back from mirrors. Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, Iraqi Republican Guard, father of 2, 32 years old. Robert's tank was 40 meters away when the surrender happened. Close enough to see everything. Close enough to recognize intent. Close enough to stop. Instead, Robert's tank fired. The Iraqi lieutenant disappeared in a fireball that consumed his crew and his tank, and any chance that anyone would ever know he had tried to quit fighting. The video ended at 19 minutes 42 seconds. Black screen, no credits, no explanation. Robert sat in his 1,500 square foot penthouse with its view of the Potomac and its $120 bourbon and realized he was holding evidence of murder. Not combat, not fog of war, murder. He checked the email again. Still no sender name, no message, just the video file and a second attachment he had not noticed before. A PDF document, 47 pages, Arabic text with English translation in parallel columns. The title page identified it as the service record of Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, Iraqi Army, Armored Division, assigned to Republican Guard 3rd Battalion. Robert scrolled through pages of military bureaucracy, promotions and training certifications and equipment inventories. The mundane paperwork of war. Then on page 32, he found photographs. Khalid al-Rashid in dress uniform, young and serious, eyes that suggested intelligence and doubt. Not the face of a fanatic, the face of a man who had been conscripted into someone else's war. Another photograph showed Khalid with his family, a wife whose name the document listed as Nadia, 2 daughters, the older one maybe 6 years old, the younger one 4, all of them smiling in front of what looked like a modest house in Baghdad. The date stamp on the photo read December 1990, 2 months before the ground war started, 2 months before Robert killed him. Page 47 contained a handwritten letter. The English translation appeared below the Arabic original. My beloved Nadia and my precious daughters Amira and Layla. If you are reading this, then I did not return from Kuwait. I want you to know that I tried to be brave. I tried to do my duty. But I also tried to stay human. War makes men into monsters if they allow it. I chose mercy whenever I could. I hope it was enough. I hope God sees what was in my heart and judges me fairly. Tell the girls their father loved them more than life. Tell them I died trying to come home. Your devoted husband, Khalid. The letter was dated February 25, 1991. One day before the battle, one day before Robert shot him while he surrendered. Robert closed the laptop. His phone buzzed. Another email from the same unknown sender. This one contained text. Captain Hastings. The world deserves truth. Lieutenant al-Rashid deserves justice. You have 90 days to decide if you are the hero everyone believes or the coward I suspect. His daughters are waiting, Amira and Layla al-Rashid. Robert sat in the dark and watched the lights of Washington reflect off the Potomac. Somewhere in this city, men were making decisions about war and peace, about who lived and who died, about which version of history would be recorded. None of them knew that their monuments were built on lies. His phone rang. Marcus Chen. Robert let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. On the fourth call, Robert answered. Marcus sounded breathless. Sir, you need to see this. Someone leaked footage to Al Jazeera, combat video from 73 Easting, angles we have never seen before. The network is calling it new evidence. They are threatening an expose. CNN picked up the story. Fox is running segments. Sir, what is happening? Robert's voice came out steady despite everything. Where are you? Office. I came in when the news broke. Sir, the Pentagon is calling. Defense contractors are calling. Everyone wants to know if the footage is real and what it means and whether your account of the battle is accurate. What should I tell them? Tell them nothing. I will handle this. But sir, they are asking direct questions about kill counts and Medal of Honor citations and whether there were irregularities in the after-action report. I need guidance. Robert closed his eyes. Give me 24 hours. Do not respond to anyone. Do not confirm anything. Tell them I am reviewing the footage and will make a statement when appropriate. Sir, with respect, 24 hours might be too long. This story is moving fast. Social media is exploding. Veteran groups are demanding answers. If you do not get ahead of this, someone else will control the narrative. I understand, 24 hours. Robert ended the call. His apartment felt smaller suddenly. The walls closer, the air thinner. He had lived in this space for 10 years and never felt trapped. Now the glass walls seemed like a cage. He opened his laptop again and searched for Al Jazeera. The network's website featured the story as breaking news. New evidence challenges Gulf War heroes account, screamed the headline. Beneath it, video stills from the combat footage. Blurry thermal images that meant nothing to civilians but would tell any tanker exactly what had happened. Robert clicked play on the news segment. The reporter was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and perfect Arabic, inflected English. Al Jazeera has obtained never-before-seen combat footage from the Battle of 73 Easting. The footage appears to show significant discrepancies with official American accounts of the battle. Most notably, questions are being raised about Captain Robert Hastings, whose actions that day earned him the Medal of Honor. The screen cut to the thermal footage. 9 Iraqi tanks dying, each kill marked with timestamp and position data. Analysis overlays showing firing angles and trajectories. The reporter continued. Military experts who reviewed this footage at our request noted that several of the kills attributed to Captain Hastings in official reports appear to have come from a different American tank. That tank was commanded by Sergeant David Reeves, who died moments later. Questions now arise about whether Captain Hastings claimed credit for his subordinates' actions. Robert's phone began ringing constantly. He turned it off. The news segment showed more footage. The Iraqi lieutenant surrendering. Robert's tank firing anyway. The explosion that followed. Even more disturbing, the reporter said, this footage appears to show Iraqi forces attempting to surrender before being fired upon. If verified, this could constitute a war crime under international law. The segment ended with a statement from the Pentagon, a spokesperson in dress blues standing before American flags. The Department of Defense is reviewing the footage. We take any allegations of impropriety seriously. However, we caution against rushing to judgment based on incomplete information. Combat is chaotic. Decisions must be made in seconds. Captain Hastings is a decorated veteran whose service record speaks for itself. Robert turned off the laptop. He walked to his bedroom and opened the closet. On the top shelf, in a wooden box that had not been opened in 15 years, he found what he was looking for. His service pistol, a Colt 1911, .45 caliber, standard issue when he was a young officer. He had carried it through the Gulf War, had qualified expert with it every year, had never fired it in anger. The gun was clean and oiled. Robert maintained it out of habit even though he never touched it. The weight felt familiar in his hand, solid, decisive, a tool that solved problems permanently. He checked the magazine. 7 rounds. Federal Hydroshock hollow points, the kind that expanded on impact and did not exit. The kind chosen by people who understood finality. Robert sat on his bed with the pistol in his lap and thought about courage. Real courage meant facing consequences, meant standing in front of truth and accepting judgment, meant admitting fault and bearing punishment. What Robert had done for 33 years was not courage. It was cowardice dressed in medals and speeches. It was hiding behind dead men who could not contradict him. It was stealing glory from a 22-year-old sergeant who had made an impossible shot under fire and died before anyone could properly thank him. The pistol offered a different kind of courage, the kind that required only 1 second of resolve, one trigger pull, one moment of pain, then nothing, no questions, no investigations, no monuments torn down, just an end. Robert's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He had turned it off, but it came back on automatically, a safety feature. Someone was trying to reach him desperately. He looked at the screen, 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, 18 voicemails. One name appeared more than any other, Thomas Wayne. Thomas had served as his executive officer in the Gulf War, had gone on to become a full colonel, had retired with honors, was now dying of lung cancer in a hospital room at Walter Reed. Thomas had been calling for 3 hours. Robert set down the pistol and dialed. Thomas answered on the first ring. His voice was weak but clear. "Bobby, thank God I have been watching the news. I have been trying to reach you." "I know, I'm sorry." "Are you all right?" Robert laughed. It came out bitter. "That depends on your definition." "Where are you?" "Home, alone, trying to decide what comes next." Silence on the line. Then Thomas spoke very carefully. "Bobby, I need you to listen to me. I need you to listen and not interrupt. Can you do that?" "Yes. I have cancer, stage 4. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. I have been thinking about my life, about what I did right and what I did wrong, about what I leave behind." Robert waited. "I need to tell you something," Thomas continued. "Something I should have said 33 years ago, but did not because I was weak, because I valued our friendship more than truth, because I told myself that lies in service of a good outcome were acceptable." Robert's chest tightened. "I know what happened at 73 Easting," Thomas said. "I know about David Reeves making those shots. I know about you claiming credit. I know about the Iraqi officer surrendering. Bobby, I was in the command track 500 meters behind your position. I saw everything through binoculars." The world tilted. Robert gripped the phone harder. "I corroborated your false report," Thomas said. "I signed off as executive officer. I recommended you for the Medal of Honor. I testified to investigators. I backed your version of events because I thought it served the mission. Because Charlie Company needed a hero to rally around. Because you were my friend and I could not bear to destroy you." Robert found his voice. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I am dying and I cannot meet God with this lie. Because that footage proves what happened. Because David Reeves's mother died never knowing her son was the real hero. Because Lieutenant al-Rashid's daughters deserve to know their father died trying to do the right thing. Because you need to stop running. If you come forward, we both go down." "I know, I am ready. The question is whether you are." Robert looked at the pistol on his bed, at the easy way out. "What do you expect me to do?" "Tell the truth. Own what happened. Face the consequences. Be the man I thought you were instead of the one you became. That destroys everything. My reputation, my career, the Corps' honor, your legacy." "What honor, Bobby? Built on stolen valor and murdered prisoners? That is not honor. That is cowardice." The words hit like bullets. "You have a choice," Thomas said. "Keep lying and become the villain this story needs. Or tell the truth and maybe salvage some shred of integrity. I am changing my will, leaving $5 million to a David Reeves Memorial Scholarship. At my funeral, they will announce it is for the real hero of 73 Easting. You have 6 months to get ahead of it, to control the narrative, to do this on your terms. You would destroy me to save your soul? I would free you from the prison you built, the same one I have been living in. Bobby, I have spent 33 years watching you pretend, watching you shake hands and give speeches and accept awards you do not deserve. It has been killing you. Those tremors in your hands, the drinking, the isolation. You think I do not notice?" Robert said nothing. "You are 67 years old," Thomas continued. "You could live another 20 years. Do you want to spend them like this? Or do you want one day of real courage that redeems the last 33 years of cowardice? I need time to think. You have 6 months. That is all I have left. After that, my will goes into effect and the truth comes out anyway. Better if it comes from you first. Better if you own it rather than having it exposed." The line went quiet. Robert could hear machines beeping in the background. the sounds of hospitals and dying. "Bobby," Thomas said softly, "I love you like a brother. That is why I am doing this. Not to hurt you, to free you, before it is too late for both of us." The call ended. Robert sat alone in his bedroom with a loaded pistol and 90 days to decide whether he was a hero or a coward. His phone buzzed again, a new email from the unknown sender. The subject line read, "Day 1 of 90, truth or consequences, choose wisely." Robert opened the email. It contained a single photograph. Two women, middle-aged, Iraqi features, standing in front of the Hague International Criminal Court, both holding a photograph of Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid in uniform. The caption identified them. Amira al-Rashid, Yemi, Senior Investigator, International War Crimes Tribunal. Layla al-Rashid, Iraqi military historian. Daughters of Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, killed February 26, 1991. Below the photo, a message. Captain Hastings, we are our father's daughters. We seek justice, not revenge. We will give you 90 days to come forward voluntarily. After that, we file formal war crimes charges at The Hague. We have the evidence. We have witnesses. We have our father's blood on our hands and your lies in our ears. The world will know the truth. The only question is whether you will be remembered as the man who finally told it or the coward who had to be exposed. Sincerely, Amira and Layla al-Rashid. Robert set down his phone. He picked up the pistol. Then he put it back in the box and closed the closet door. 90 days. He had 90 days to become someone different, or 90 days until he lost everything. The monument in Georgia gleamed under floodlights as Robert sat in darkness 300 miles away. Bronze and granite, permanent and false. A lie that would outlive him unless he found the courage to tear it down himself. His hands shook. They had shaken for 33 years. Maybe in 90 days they would finally stop. Robert Hastings hired the most expensive lawyer in Washington 3 hours after the sun came up. Daniel Shaw did not advertise. His clients found him through whispered recommendations in Pentagon corridors and defense contractor boardrooms. Former CIA officer with 2 decades in the Directorate of Operations. He had built networks in every intelligence agency during his government service. Those connections remained active even after his official retirement. Now he ran a private intelligence firm that specialized in making problems disappear. Shaw's office occupied the top floor of a building in Georgetown. No nameplate on the door, no receptionist, just a single room with bulletproof windows and furniture that cost more than most people earned in a year. Shaw was 52, gray suit, gray hair, gray eyes that missed nothing. He listened to Robert's story without interruption, took notes on a yellow legal pad, asked 3 questions when Robert finished. How many people have seen the footage? I do not know. Al Jazeera aired portions. It is on the internet now. Thousands, maybe millions. Who sent you the original file? The al-Rashid daughters, Amira and Layla. They identified themselves in the email. What do you want me to do about it? Robert met Shaw's gray eyes. Make it go away. Shaw set down his pen. Let me be clear about what that means. These women are not amateurs. Amira al-Rashid works for the International Criminal Court. She has resources, connections, legal expertise. She has been planning this for years. This is not a problem that disappears with money or threats or favorable media coverage. Then what do you suggest? The truth. You go public. Admit fault. Claim PTSD. Say combat stress caused errors in judgment and memory. Express remorse. Take responsibility. The American people forgive veterans who show humility. You lose the Medal of Honor but avoid prison. Your reputation takes a hit but survives. You can rebuild. Robert's hands shook against the armrest. That is not an option. Why not? Because I have spent 33 years building a life on that lie. Book deals, speaking engagements, board positions, Pentagon contracts. Everything I have depends on being the hero of 73 Easting. If I admit fraud, I lose all of it. Shaw leaned back in his chair. Then you have chosen the difficult path. If you want to fight this, we fight to destroy their credibility. Discredit the footage, attack the sources, make this about anti-American activists with an agenda rather than about what actually happened. It will be expensive, it will be ugly, and it might not work. How expensive? Initial retainer is $500,000. That gets you 30 days of full court press, investigation, opposition research, media management, legal strategy. If this goes longer, we renegotiate. Robert thought about his bank account. about the defense contractor money and book royalties and speaking fees that had accumulated over 3 decades. He could afford Shaw's price. Barely. Do it, Robert said. Shaw opened a drawer and produced a contract. 20 pages of legal language that boiled down to one simple truth. Shaw would do whatever necessary to protect Robert's reputation. The methods were not specified. The ethics were not mentioned. Results were guaranteed or money back. Robert signed without reading. One more thing, Shaw said, and there is a witness. Someone who was in your tank during the battle. Someone who knows exactly what happened. Robert's stomach dropped. Who? Sergeant First Class James Holland. He was your driver. He survived the battle, retired in 1992 with full disability. Lives in Montana now. Cattle ranch outside Billings. How do you know about him? Shaw's expression did not change. I maintained my intelligence contacts after leaving the agency. 20 years of relationships do not disappear because you change business cards. When you hire me, you hire access to databases most private investigators cannot touch. Medical records, financial histories, communication logs, legal but expensive. What does Holland know? Everything you do. He was there. He saw Sergeant Reeves make those shots. He saw you claim credit. He saw the Iraqi lieutenant surrender. He heard your radio calls to command. If the al-Rashid sisters call him as a witness, your story falls apart completely. Robert felt the walls closing in. Can you stop him from testifying? That depends on what motivates him. Some men want money, some want attention, some want revenge. My research shows Holland is 66 years old, terminal prostate cancer, 8 months to live according to his VA medical files. Men facing death tend to want clean consciences. You accessed his VA records? Former agency contacts still work at various federal departments. Information flows to those who know how to ask. That access is part of what you are paying for. Robert stood and walked to the window. Georgetown spread below him. Beautiful old buildings full of powerful people making decisions that shape the world. He had been one of them for 33 years. Respected, influential, important. Now he was hiring someone to silence a dying man. Talk to him, Robert said. Find out what he wants. See if we can reach an understanding. And if we cannot, then we find another way. Shaw made a note on his legal pad. Understood. I will have a preliminary report in 48 hours. In the meantime, say nothing to anyone. No statements, no interviews, no social media. Let me control the narrative. Robert left Shaw's office and walked 3 blocks before he realized he had nowhere to go. His apartment felt like a cage. His office was full of people asking questions he could not answer. The Pentagon would be calling soon, if they had not already. He found himself at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the long black wall carved with 58,000 names. Robert had been here dozens of times, had given speeches at remembrance ceremonies, had stood with presidents and generals honoring sacrifice. Now he walked along the wall reading names and thought about monuments, about how history was recorded by survivors, about how the truth died with the people who lived it. A group of school children passed with their teacher, 8th graders maybe. The teacher was explaining the wall, talking about courage and duty and the price of freedom. The children looked bored. This was ancient history to them, another war in a long list of wars, just names on a wall. Robert wondered if his name would end up on a different kind of wall, a list of frauds and liars, men who wore medals they did not earn, heroes who were actually cowards. His phone buzzed, a text from Marcus Chen. Sir, CNN is running a story at noon. They interviewed a former Pentagon analyst who questions the kill counts from 73 Easting. Fox scheduled a segment for tonight. The Army Times is requesting comment. Sir, we need to respond. Robert typed back. No comment. Refer all inquiries to Daniel Shaw. He included Shaw's contact information. Another text arrived immediately. Sir, with respect, staying silent makes you look guilty. We need to get ahead of this. Robert turned off his phone. He spent the rest of the morning walking, Georgetown to the mall to the Capitol and back. 7 miles of pavement while Washington hummed around him. Tourists and lawyers and lobbyists and staffers. Everyone busy with their own dramas. No one caring about an old man whose monument was built on lies. At 3 p.m., his phone vibrated with an emergency alert. He had programmed certain numbers to bypass silent mode. Thomas Wayne was one of them. The text was short. Turn on CNN. Robert found a sports bar with televisions. Ordered coffee he did not drink. Watched the screen as Wolf Blitzer introduced a breaking news segment. Dramatic new developments in the controversy surrounding Medal of Honor recipient Robert Hastings. CNN has obtained testimony from a former member of Hastings' crew during the Battle of 73 Easting. What this soldier says raises serious questions about the official account of that engagement. The screen cut to video of a ranch house in Montana, big sky country, mountains in the distance. A thin man in his 60s sat in a wheelchair on a wooden porch. Oxygen tubes ran to his nose. His hands were spotted with age, but his eyes were clear. The CNN reporter sat across from him. Sergeant Holland, you served as driver in Captain Hastings' tank during the Gulf War. You were there during the Battle of 73 Easting. What can you tell us about that day? James Holland looked directly at the camera. His voice was rough but steady. I can tell you that everything Captain Hastings has said for 33 years is a lie. Robert's coffee cup trembled in his hand. Those 9 Iraqi tanks, Holland continued. Captain Hastings did not kill them. Our gunner did. Sergeant David Reeves. Davy was 22 years old and the best shot I ever saw. He made those kills in less than 3 minutes. Impossible shooting, the kind of thing that wins wars. The reporter leaned forward. But Captain Hastings claimed credit? Yes, ma'am. Davy died about 30 seconds after making the last shot. RPG hit our turret. Davy never knew what hit him. Captain Hastings got on the radio and reported 9 kills to command. Said they were his. Said he made the shots. Command believed him. Why would not they? He was the officer. I was just the driver. I did not see what happened in the turret. Not directly. But you knew. We all knew. The whole crew knew. But Davy was dead. Captain Hastings was alive and wearing railroad tracks on his collar. Who was going to contradict him? Not me. I was a sergeant. He was a captain. That is not how the Army works. Why are you coming forward now? Holland touched the oxygen tube at his nose. Because I have cancer. 8 months if I am lucky. I have been carrying this lie for 33 years. I cannot take it to my grave. Davy Reeves was a hero. His mother died never knowing that. His family thinks he was just another good soldier who died in combat. They do not know he saved 127 American lives with his shooting. That is wrong. That needs to be fixed. What about the allegation that Captain Hastings shot a surrendering Iraqi officer? Holland's face hardened. That is true too. I saw it. We all saw it. Iraqi lieutenant climbed out of his tank. Hands up. White flag. Clear surrender. Captain Hastings ordered the gunner to fire anyway. The Iraqi died before he hit the ground. So did his crew, 4 men who were trying to quit fighting. That would constitute a war crime. Yes, ma'am, it would. The screen cut back to Wolf Blitzer in the studio. Explosive testimony from Sergeant James Holland. The Pentagon has not yet responded to CNN's request for comment. Captain Hastings' attorney Daniel Shaw released this statement. Sergeant Holland is a dying man seeking attention. His claims are unsubstantiated and contradicted by official records. Captain Hastings stands by his service record and looks forward to the opportunity to address these false allegations. Robert set down his coffee cup. His hands were shaking too badly to hold it. The bartender glanced over. You okay, buddy? Fine, just tired. That guy on TV, the Medal of Honor guy, you think he really lied about all that? Robert stood and left cash on the bar. I have no idea. He walked back to his apartment through autumn afternoon light. The Potomac reflected golden red. Tourist boats cruised the river. Joggers passed on the path. Everything normal and beautiful while Robert's world collapsed. His phone began ringing the moment he walked through the door. Marcus Chen. Robert sent it to voicemail. Then it rang again. Shaw this time. Robert answered. Did you see CNN? Shaw asked. Yes. Holland just declared war. That testimony will be everywhere by tonight. Social media, cable news. Every veteran group in America will have an opinion. Some will support you, most will not. Stolen valor is the one thing the military community does not forgive. What do? We destroy Holland's credibility. I already have investigators on it. His medical discharge in 1992 was for PTSD. His VA benefits are based on testimony that he witnessed traumatic combat while serving under a heroic commander. If he now claims that commander was a fraud, his entire disability claim falls apart. We threaten him with benefits fraud. $800,000 in payments over 30 years. Criminal charges, prison time. Robert sat down heavily. He is dying, which gives us leverage. He wants to die in peace on his ranch, not in a courtroom fighting fraud charges while his family loses everything. We can make that happen if he recants. And if he does not, Shaw's voice went cold. Then his daughter Amy loses the ranch. His grandchildren lose their inheritance. His legacy becomes that of a liar who defrauded the government for 3 decades. We make him radioactive, make him wish he had kept quiet. Robert closed his eyes. This is what I hired you for. Yes, it is. Do you want me to proceed? Every part of Robert screamed no. Every part except the survival instinct that had kept him alive and successful for 67 years. Proceed, Robert said. He ended the call and poured bourbon, drank it standing at his window, watching darkness fall over Washington. Watched lights come on in buildings full of people living honest lives. People who had never shot surrendering soldiers, never stolen glory from dead heroes, never hired fixers to threaten dying men. His phone buzzed. An email from Shaw. Subject line, Holland Pressure Campaign. Robert opened the attachment. A detailed dossier on James Holland, military service, medical history, financial records, family information, everything Shaw needed to destroy a man's life. The file included photographs. Holland with his daughter Amy at her college graduation. Holland with his grandchildren at a county fair. Holland receiving his medical discharge papers with a smile of relief. And one more photograph. A group shot from 1991. 4 men in desert camouflage standing beside an M1 Abrams tank. Captain Robert Hastings in the center wearing a confident smile. Sergeant David Reeves to his right looking young and serious. Sergeant James Holland to his left, squinting against the sun. The 4th man was their loader, Specialist Patterson. They looked like brothers, like a crew, like men who trusted each other with their lives. Robert had betrayed every single one of them. His phone rang. Not Shaw this time, not Marcus. A number Robert did not recognize. Area code 406, Montana. He answered. Captain Hastings? The voice was Holland's, rough with oxygen deprivation but steady. This is Jim Holland. We need to talk. Robert said nothing for 3 seconds. Then 4. Holland waited. Why did you do the CNN interview? Robert finally asked. Because you left me no choice. I saw the Al Jazeera footage, saw those women asking for justice, saw people starting to ask questions. I knew it was time. Time for what? Time to stop lying. Robert's hands tightened on the phone. You have been lying for 33 years. Why stop now? I told you. Cancer, 8 months. I want to die clean. At my expense. Holland's laugh turned into a cough. When he recovered, his voice was harder. At your expense? Captain, you have been living high for 3 decades on a lie. Medal of Honor, book deals, defense contracts. You built an empire on Davy Reeves' shooting and my silence. Do not talk to me about expense. I gave you that silence. I could have reported you for dereliction, for cowardice. You panicked during the battle, froze at the controls. If I had put that in my report, you would have been court-martialed. Silence on the line, then Holland spoke very quietly. Is that the story you are going with now, that I was a coward? I am saying you owe me. You kept your rank, your benefits, your pension, because I protected you. You protected yourself. You needed me to back your version of events. You needed witnesses who would not contradict you. So you came to Montana in 1990. Remember that visit? You sat on my porch and told me how we were going to remember 73 Easting. You said Davy's sacrifice was heroic, but command decisions were yours. You said the Medal of Honor would honor our whole crew. You said if I ever contradicted that story, you would destroy me. Robert remembered. He had been 39 years old then, fresh from the Pentagon ceremony where the president hung the medal around his neck. Confident, ambitious, convinced that his version of history was close enough to truth that it did not matter. I was protecting the mission, Robert said. Charlie Company needed heroes. The Army needed success stories. Davy was dead. Someone had to carry the standard. So you chose yourself. I chose to lead. That is what officers do. No, sir, that is what liars do. Robert felt anger rising. Your lawyer contacted you, did he not? You know what happens if you do not recant. Fraud charges, loss of benefits. Your family loses everything. I know. Daniel Shaw made that very clear. Sent 2 men to visit me yesterday. Nice suits, not nice manners. They explained exactly what you would do to me if I did not shut up. Then you understand the situation. I do, which is why I am calling, to give you one chance to do this right. Meaning what? Meaning you come clean yourself. You admit the truth. You give Davy the credit he earned. You face the consequences like a man instead of hiding behind lawyers and threats. Robert laughed. It sounded bitter even to himself. And what do I get for that? Prison? Public humiliation? Loss of everything I have worked for? You get to die honest, like I am trying to do. You think you are scared now? Wait until you are my age. Wait until you can count your remaining days on two hands. Wait until you realize that every minute you have left is wrapped around a lie that suffocates you. That is what you have to look forward to, Captain, unless you find the courage to stop running. Courage? You want to lecture me about courage? Someone needs to. Because what you are doing right now, threatening a dying man, trying to silence witnesses, hiring fixers to bury the truth, that is not courage. That is cowardice. The same cowardice that made you steal Davy's glory. The same cowardice that made you shoot that Iraqi lieutenant. You have been a coward for 33 years, Captain. I am giving you a chance to stop. Robert's voice went cold. I will bury you, Holland. You and your family and your ranch and everything you love. You will die alone in a VA hospital while your daughter loses everything. That is what happens when you declare war on me. Holland was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something like pity. You still do not get it. I am already dead. Cancer is killing me. You cannot threaten me with anything worse than what is coming anyway. But you are 67. You could live another 20 years. You want to spend them like this? Building higher walls of lies? Threatening more people? Becoming more of a monster every day? I am protecting what is mine. You are protecting a lie. There is a difference. Not to me. Then God help you, Captain, because you are going to need it. Holland ended the call. Robert stood at his window holding a silent phone. Below him, the Potomac flowed dark and cold. Across the river, Arlington National Cemetery spread white stones across green hills. Thousands of graves, thousands of stories. Some true, some false. All permanent. His phone buzzed. A text from Shaw. Holland recording our conversation just now. Anticipate he releases it to media. Advise you say nothing until we assess damage. Robert texted back. How did you know he was recording? Because I was recording too. We monitor all communications involving active cases. Do not worry. We have options. Robert thought about options. About the dark roads Shaw's work traveled. About men in nice suits with not nice manners visiting dying ranchers in Montana. He thought about Sergeant David Reeves, 22 years old, dead before he knew he had made history, dead before anyone thanked him, dead before his mother could tell him she was proud. He thought about Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, 32 years old, father of two, climbing out of a burning tank with his hands up, dying before he could surrender, dying before he could go home to daughters who would spend their lives seeking answers. He thought about James Holland, 66 years old, 8 months to live, dying on a ranch in Montana surrounded by family who would lose everything because he chose truth over comfort. Robert poured more bourbon, drank it, poured again. His phone rang. Thomas Wayne this time. Robert answered without speaking. Bobby, Thomas's voice was weaker than yesterday. The cancer was moving fast. Did you watch Holland's interview? Yes. What are you going to do? What I have to. Which is what? Fight, discredit Holland, suppress the footage, protect my reputation. Silence. Then Thomas spoke very carefully. Bobby, I was there. I saw what happened. If you fight this, I will testify against you. Robert felt the floor drop away. What? I have been silent for 33 years. I signed off on your false report. I corroborated your story. I helped build your lie. I am done, Bobby. I am dying and I am done. You would betray me? I would free both of us. You are my oldest friend. I love you, which is why I cannot let you keep doing this. Cannot let you destroy Holland. Cannot let you become more of a monster. I am going to tell the truth. The only question is whether you tell it with me or fight it until the end. Robert's voice shook. If you testify against me, your career is destroyed. Your reputation, everything you built. I know, I have made peace with that. Have you? This is not your choice to make. It absolutely is. I was executive officer. I signed the after-action report. I recommended you for the Medal of Honor. I am as guilty as you are, maybe more because I knew better and did it anyway. So I am telling you right now, I am coming forward, with or without you. When? My lawyer is drafting a statement. It goes public in 72 hours. That gives you time to get ahead of it, time to control the narrative, time to do this on your terms instead of having it forced on you. Robert sank into a chair. Why are you doing this? Because someone has to stop you. Because you are my friend and I cannot watch you destroy yourself anymore. Because Davy Reeves and Khalid al-Rashid and Jim Holland and everyone else you have hurt over the years deserves better. Because I want to die as something other than a liar. Because I love you enough to save you from yourself even if you hate me for it. I will hate you. I know. I can live with that for the next 6 months. Can you live with what you are becoming for the next 20 years? The line went dead. Robert sat in his expensive apartment with his expensive bourbon and thought about the mathematics of destruction. Holland had 8 months. Thomas had 6. Robert might have 20 years. 20 years of fighting. 20 years of lawyers and threats and cover-ups. 20 years of watching everyone who knew the truth while he kept lying. 20 years of hands that shook. 20 years of nightmares. 20 years of monuments built on graves. His phone buzzed, an email from an address he did not recognize. The subject line was in Arabic. The translation function showed English. From the daughters of Khalid al-Rashid. Robert opened it. The email contained a video file, MP4 format, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. He pressed play. 2 women appeared on screen, both middle-aged, both with their father's eyes. They sat side by side in what looked like a modest apartment, books on shelves behind them. A photograph of Lieutenant al-Rashid in uniform on the wall. The older woman spoke first. Her English was perfect, barely accented. Captain Hastings, my name is Amira al-Rashid. This is my sister Layla. We are the daughters of Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, Iraqi Army, killed by you on February 26, 1991. Layla picked up the narrative. Our father was 32 years old. He was an engineer, conscripted into Saddam's army. He did not want to fight. His letters home said he prayed every day for peace, for a chance to surrender, for a way to come home to us. Amira continued, on the last day of his life, our father wrote a letter. He told our mother that if he died, he wanted us to know he tried to do the right thing, tried to be merciful, tried to stay human even in war. Layla's voice cracked slightly. Your footage shows what happened. Our father climbed out of his tank. His crew was burned, dying. He could have kept fighting. Instead, he raised his hands. He surrendered. He chose mercy. You shot him anyway, Amira said. You killed a man who was trying to do the right thing, who was trying to save lives, who was trying to come home to his daughters. Both women looked directly at the camera, at Robert. We are not asking for revenge, Amira said. We are asking for acknowledgement, for truth, for our father to be remembered as he was, a man who chose courage over violence, a man who died trying to do good. Layla held up a photograph, 2 little girls in matching dresses, maybe 6 and 4 years old, smiling. This is who we were when you killed our father. We grew up without him. We grew up wondering what kind of man he was, whether he was brave, whether he fought honorably, whether his death meant anything. We know now, Amira said, he died honorably. You did not, and we want the world to know the difference. You have 72 hours, Layla said, 72 hours to come forward yourself, to tell the truth, to give our father the dignity of honest acknowledgement. After that, we file formal war crimes charges with the International Criminal Court. We have evidence, we have witnesses, we have the combat footage, we have testimony from your own executive officer. Amira leaned forward. Captain Hastings, we do not hate you. Hate is exhausting. Hate is what started wars like the one that killed our father. But we will have justice. The only question is whether you participate in that justice or fight it. Whether you are remembered as the man who finally told the truth or the coward who had to be exposed. Choose wisely, Layla said. The video ended. Robert sat in silence. The cursor blinked on the dark screen. Play again or delete. Truth or lies. Courage or cowardice. His phone rang. Shaw. Sir, we have a problem. Thomas Wayne just released a video statement. He is corroborating Holland, admitting he knew about the fraud, saying he signed false reports. CNN is running it now. Fox will have it in 20 minutes. Sir, your last credible witness just turned against you. Robert closed his eyes. What are my options? Legally, very few. Wayne was executive officer. His testimony carries weight. Combined with Holland and the al-Rashid footage, you are looking at court-martial, loss of Medal of Honor, possible prison time, definitely financial ruin. What about illegally? Shaw was quiet for 3 seconds, then 5. What are you asking? I am asking what options exist outside the legal framework. Sir, I need you to be very specific about what you are requesting. Robert opened his eyes, looked at his reflection in the dark window, saw a 67-year-old man who had been running for 33 years and was finally out of road. Never mind, Robert said. Forget I asked. Sir, for the record, my firm does not engage in activities that would constitute criminal conspiracy. If you are asking about harm to witnesses, I cannot help you. I understand. However, Shaw's voice dropped lower, I know people who know people. If you wanted an introduction, I could facilitate that for a substantial fee, but I would need clear deniability. Robert looked at his hands. They shook harder than ever. No, he said, that is not who I am. Are you sure? Because in 72 hours, you lose everything. Your reputation, your income, your freedom. Men have killed for less. I am sure. Shaw sighed. Then I recommend immediate surrender. Voluntary statement, full cooperation, plea bargain for reduced charges. You might avoid prison, might keep some assets, but the Medal of Honor is gone. The reputation is gone. Everything built on 73 Easting disappears. How long do I have? To decide? 72 hours like the Al-Rashid sisters said, but really you have about 6 hours before this becomes unmanageable. Every minute you wait, the hole gets deeper. If you are going to come clean, do it now, tonight, before anyone else controls the narrative. Robert ended the call. He stood at his window and watched Washington at night, beautiful and corrupt and honest and false. A city built on power and lies and occasional truth. A city where monuments meant everything and nothing. His phone buzzed one more time, a text from Marcus Chen. Sir, I am resigning effective immediately. I cannot be part of whatever happens next. I am sorry. You were a hero to me. I hope you can be one again, but not like this, never like this. Robert read the message 3 times. Then he opened his laptop, opened a blank document, began to type. My name is Robert Hastings. I am 67 years old. I am a fraud. Robert stared at the cursor blinking on his laptop screen. My name is Robert Hastings. I am 67 years old. I am a fraud. 13 words. The easiest sentence he had written in 33 years. Also the hardest. His hands hovered over the keyboard. The next sentence would determine everything. Confession or denial, truth or another layer of lies, the man he had been or the man he might become. The clock on his laptop showed 11:47 p.m. In 7 hours, the sun would rise on day 70 of 90. In 72 hours, Thomas Wayne's statement would go public. In 73 hours, the Al-Rashid sisters would file war crimes charges at The Hague. Robert had spent 33 years running from this moment. Now it had arrived and he discovered something strange. Relief. Not peace, not forgiveness, just the simple relief of stopping, of not having to pretend anymore, of not having to remember which version of the story he had told to which audience, of not having to watch his words and guard his expressions and calculate every response. He began typing. The confession took 4 hours to write. Robert did not try to justify or explain or rationalize. He simply told what happened. The battle, the kills, David Reeves making impossible shots, the RPG that killed him, Robert's decision to claim credit, the Iraqi lieutenant surrendering, Robert's order to fire anyway, Thomas Wayne's silence, James Holland's complicity. 33 years of lies built on 2 minutes of cowardice. When he finished, the document was 11 pages long, single-spaced, no embellishment, just facts stated in the flat language of after-action reports. He read it twice, changed nothing, attached it to an email addressed to every major news organization in America. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, Al Jazeera, 27 recipients in total. The subject line was simple. Statement from Robert Hastings regarding Battle of 73 Easting. His finger hovered over the send button. One click and his life ended. Everything he had built would collapse. The Medal of Honor would be revoked. The book contracts canceled. The board positions terminated. The Pentagon would want nothing to do with him. Veterans groups would denounce him. His name would become synonymous with fraud. But David Reeves would finally get credit for his shooting. Khalid al-Rashid would be remembered as a man who tried to surrender rather than a casualty of war. James Holland could die knowing he told the truth. Thomas Wayne could face death with a clean conscience. Robert clicked send. The email disappeared into the electronic void. No fanfare, No confirmation. Just a brief flash of light on the screen, and then silence. He closed his laptop and walked to his window. Washington slept below him. The Potomac reflected city lights like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in those buildings, men and women were working night shifts, staffers drafting legislation, janitors cleaning offices, security guards watching monitors, all of them living honest lives. Robert felt something he had not felt in 3 decades. Envy. His phone rang at 6:23 a.m. Shaw's number. Robert let it ring. It stopped and immediately started again. 5 times. 6. On the 7th call, Robert answered. Shaw's voice was tight with controlled fury. What did you do? I told the truth. You sent a confession to every news organization in America. Do you understand what you have done? Yes. CNN is running your statement in 20 minutes. Fox will have it by 7. By noon, this will be the only story in America. The Pentagon will convene an investigation by end of business today. You will be charged with fraud, filing false reports, possibly war crimes. You will lose everything. I know. Then why? Robert watched the sun come up over the Potomac. Because I was tired of being afraid. Shaw was silent for 5 seconds. I cannot help you anymore. My firm does not represent clients who confess to crimes. You are on your own. I understand. For what it is worth, I think you just committed professional suicide. But I have seen a lot of guilty men in my career. You are the first one I have seen who looked relieved to get caught. Shaw ended the call. Robert made coffee, scrambled eggs, toast, ate breakfast while watching the sun climb higher. His last morning as the hero of 73 Easting. Tomorrow he would wake up as something else. A cautionary tale, a fraud exposed, a man who had finally stopped running. His phone began ringing at 7:15 a.m. and did not stop. Reporters, producers, former colleagues, Pentagon officials, veterans groups, everyone wanting comment or clarification or explanation. Robert turned off his phone and sat in silence. At 9:30 a.m., someone knocked on his apartment door. Robert looked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits. Federal agents, probably. Or Pentagon security. Come to take his statement or arrest him, or both. Robert opened the door. The older agent held up credentials. Captain Hastings? I am Special Agent Morrison, Office of Special Investigations. This is Agent Chen. We need you to come with us for questioning regarding your statement this morning. Am I under arrest? Not at this time, but we strongly advise you to cooperate voluntarily. This can be easy or difficult. Your choice. Robert grabbed his jacket. Let me save you some time. Everything in my statement is true. I lied about the kills. I shot a surrendering officer. I filed false reports. I stole a Medal of Honor. I am guilty of everything you are going to charge me with. Morrison studied him. Most people in your situation hire lawyers. Demand representation. Fight every step. You are just going to confess? I already did, this morning. To 27 news organizations. Might as well tell you too. The agents exchanged glances. Morrison shrugged. Okay then, let us go. They drove Robert to Bolling Air Force Base, put him in a conference room with a digital recorder and a court reporter and a JAG lawyer who tried very hard to get Robert to reconsider his approach. Captain Hastings, you are making this very easy for the prosecution and very difficult for yourself. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I strongly advise you to exercise your right to remain silent until we can mount a proper defense. What defense? Robert asked. I am guilty. I signed a false after-action report. I claimed medals I did not earn. I killed an enemy combatant who was surrendering. These are facts, not open to interpretation. The JAG lawyer looked pained. Sir, with all due respect, you are destroying any chance of a favorable outcome. Combat situations are chaotic. Memory is unreliable. After 33 years, details become confused. We could argue honest mistake, PTSD, fog of war, a dozen mitigating factors. But if you just confess to everything, I cannot help you. Then do not help me. I do not want mitigation. I want accountability. The interview lasted 6 hours. Robert answered every question, provided every detail, acknowledged every lie. When they asked why he was being so cooperative, he gave them the only answer that mattered. Because David Reeves deserves better. Because Khalid al-Rashid deserves better. Because I am tired of being a coward. They released him at 4:06 p.m. with instructions not to leave the Washington area. Criminal charges were pending. Court-martial proceedings would begin within 30 days. His military pension was frozen. His security clearances revoked. His access to Pentagon facilities terminated immediately. Robert took an Uber back to his apartment. The driver recognized him from the news. "You are that tank guy, the one who lied about the Medal of Honor." "Yes?" "Man, that is messed up. Stealing valor from a dead soldier. That is low." "Yes, it is." The driver met his eyes in the rearview mirror. "Why did you do it?" Robert thought about all the explanations he had prepared over the years, all the justifications and rationalizations, all the ways he had tried to make it sound less terrible than it was, all the lies built on top of lies. "Because I was afraid," he said, "and I was ambitious, and I thought I could get away with it." The driver nodded. "At least you are being honest now. That counts for something." "Does it?" "I do not know, man. I am just driving a car. But my dad was Army. Vietnam. He always said the cover-up is worse than the crime. Maybe if you had told the truth 33 years ago, people would have understood. Now you lied for decades. That is hard to forgive." Robert gave him a large tip and went inside. His apartment felt different. The expensive furniture looked cheap. The view seemed smaller. The whole space felt like a set piece from someone else's life. Robert had lived here for 10 years and suddenly realized he had never really lived here at all. Just occupied it, used it as a base camp while he played the role of decorated hero. His phone buzzed. He had turned it back on during the drive. 67 missed calls, 84 text messages, 43 voicemails. One text stood out, from a number he recognized, James Holland. "Captain, I saw your statement. Took guts to come forward. Takes more guts to do it when you did not have to. For what it is worth, I believe you will sleep better now. I know I will. Jim Holland." Robert stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed a reply. "Sergeant Holland, thank you. And I am sorry for threatening you, for putting you in this position, for making you carry my lie for 33 years. You deserve better. David deserved better. I hope someday to deserve the peace you just gave me. Robert Hastings." He sent it and sat down to wait for the rest of his life to arrive. The court-martial convened 41 days after Robert's confession. The Pentagon had fast-tracked the proceedings. High-profile fraud cases involving Medal of Honor recipients could not be allowed to languish. Public attention demanded swift resolution. Military justice moved quickly when the accused had already confessed and media pressure was intense. The proceedings were held at Fort Myer in Virginia, a small courtroom, dress uniforms, American flags, the machinery of military justice grinding forward with grim efficiency. Robert wore civilian clothes, a dark suit, no medals, no ribbons, no rank insignia. He was no longer Captain Hastings, just Robert, 67 years old, retired, disgraced. The charges were read by a lieutenant colonel with a voice like gravel. Filing false official statements, fraud against the United States, conduct unbecoming an officer, wrongful appropriation of honors. War crimes are not being pursued due to statute of limitations in combat circumstances. Robert's lawyer stood, a young major assigned by the court when Robert refused to hire private counsel. The accused pleads guilty to all charges. The military judge looked surprised. "Counselor, are you certain your client understands he has the right to contest these charges?" "Yes, Your Honor. The accused wishes to accept full responsibility for his actions." The prosecution presented its case over 3 days. They called witnesses, played combat footage, read Robert's confession into the record, showed how he had profited from the lie for 33 years, calculated the financial benefits, tallied the speaking fees and book royalties and board positions that flowed from unearned glory. The numbers were staggering. $2.1 million in direct benefits, estimated $5 million in indirect career advantages, 33 years of fraudulent status. On the 4th day, the defense presented its case. The young major did his best with almost nothing to work with. "Your Honor, Captain Hastings was 34 years old during the Gulf War, a company-grade officer in his first major combat. The chaos of battle, the death of Sergeant Reeves, the pressure to report success. These factors do not excuse his actions, but they provide context. He made a terrible decision in a moment of fear and confusion. Then he compounded that decision with decades of cowardice. But in the end, he found the courage to tell the truth. That must count for something." The judge asked Robert if he wished to make a statement. Robert stood, looked at the panel of officers who would decide his fate, 3 colonels, 2 lieutenant colonels, all career soldiers, all men who had served with honor, all men who understood what Robert had stolen. "I do not have a defense," Robert said. "I did everything the charges allege. I lied, I stole, I profited from fraud. For 33 years, I let a better man stay dead while I took his glory. I let a father of 2 be remembered as just another casualty instead of a man who tried to do the right thing. I threatened witnesses. I hired fixers. I became everything a soldier should not be." He paused, looked at his hands. They were not shaking. "The only thing I can say is this: I am guilty. I deserve punishment. I deserve to lose everything. But I am finally telling the truth, finally giving credit to the man who earned it, finally acknowledging the man I killed. That does not make up for 3 decades of lies. It does not earn forgiveness. But maybe it means I can die as something other than a fraud." Robert sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge called a recess. The panel deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, the senior colonel stood to read the verdict. "In the matter of the United States versus Robert Hastings, on all charges, the panel finds the accused guilty as charged." Robert felt nothing, relief maybe, or just emptiness where fear used to live. The colonel continued, "For sentencing, we have considered the severity of the offenses, the duration of the fraud, the profit obtained, the harm to military honor. We have also considered the voluntary confession, the full cooperation with investigators, the apparent genuine remorse." He looked directly at Robert. "Captain Hastings, you betrayed everything a soldier holds sacred. You stole from a hero. You lied to the nation. You profited from fraud for 33 years. This panel could recommend maximum punishment: 5 years confinement, dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all benefits." Robert braced himself. "However, you eventually found the courage to tell the truth. Not when it was easy, not when it was safe, but when it cost you everything. That demonstrates some capacity for honor, however late it arrives." The colonel read from a prepared statement. "The panel sentenced you to 18 months confinement at a military facility, reduction in rank to private, dishonorable discharge, restitution of $2.1 million in benefits received under fraudulent circumstances. The Medal of Honor is hereby revoked. All other decorations earned during the period in question are under review." The judge banged his gavel. "This court is adjourned." Robert was taken into custody immediately, processed at Fort Myer, transferred to the regional confinement facility at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, given a uniform with no rank insignia, assigned to a cell with a younger soldier serving time for desertion. His cellmate was 26, Marine Corps, scared. "What are you in for, old man?" "Stolen valor, fraud, being a coward for 33 years. The kid nodded like this made sense. "I ran from my deployment, could not handle it. They gave me 2 years. You made a mistake in fear. I made a choice in ambition. Your crime is more honest than mine." They did not speak again that night. Robert lay on a thin mattress and stared at a concrete ceiling and felt peace for the first time in 33 years. No more pretending, no more speeches, no more monuments, just consequences, just accountability, just truth. He slept without nightmares. 18 months passed in the rhythm of confinement. Robert worked in the prison library, shelving books, helping younger soldiers prepare for their GED exams, teaching a class on military history that was heavy on ethics and light on glory. He received letters, not many. Thomas Wayne wrote once a week until cancer killed him 6 months into Robert's sentence. The letters were short, updates on his deteriorating health, observations about dying, one line that appeared in every letter: "You did the right thing, Bobby, finally." James Holland wrote twice. The first letter came 3 months in. "Captain, saw you got 18 months. Fair sentence. Maybe light, but I will take it. My cancer is moving fast. Doctors say 4 months now. I wanted to tell you before I go. I forgive you. Not for my sake, for yours. Carrying hate to the grave is heavy work. I would rather travel light. Jim Holland." The second letter arrived 2 weeks before Holland died. Just 3 sentences. "Davy Reeves is finally getting recognized. The Army is naming a tank training facility after him. Thought you should know." Robert cried when he read that, sat in his cell and wept for the first time in decades, not for himself, for David, for the 22-year-old kid who made impossible shots and died before anyone thanked him, who was finally getting the memorial he deserved. The Al-Rashid sisters sent a single letter. It came on the one-year anniversary of Robert's confession. The envelope was thick. Inside were two things, a photograph and a letter. The photograph showed two middle-aged women standing beside a memorial stone. The inscription was in Arabic and English. Lieutenant Khalid al-Rashid, Iraqi Army, father, husband, man of mercy. He chose peace. The letter was handwritten in careful English. Captain Hastings, we wanted you to know that our father has a proper memorial now, in Baghdad, where his family can visit, where his grandchildren can learn his story. The memorial says he chose peace. Because of your confession, the world knows this is true. He did not die as a casualty of war. He died trying to surrender, trying to do the right thing. Your truth gave us this. It does not erase what you did, but it honors what he did. We are grateful, not for his death, but for his remembered dignity. Amira and Layla al-Rashid. Robert kept the photograph in his cell, looked at it every morning, a reminder that truth served purposes beyond personal redemption. That acknowledgement mattered to the people left behind. He received no letters from former friends or colleagues. The defense contractors did not write. The Pentagon did not write. The veterans group certainly did not write. Robert had become radioactive, the man who stole valor, the fraud in the fortress, a cautionary tale told to young officers about ambition and cowardice. He accepted this, expected it, deserved it. On day 412 of his sentence, Robert was summoned to the warden's office. A visitor had requested to see him, someone not on his approved list. The warden had made an exception. Robert walked into the visiting room and stopped. A young woman sat at the metal table, early 20s, blonde hair pulled back, serious eyes. She stood when Robert entered. Captain Hastings? I am Sarah Reeves. David Reeves was my uncle. Robert's throat closed. I did not know David had a niece. He died 6 years before I was born. I never met him, but my father talks about him constantly. Uncle David the tank gunner, Uncle David the hero. Dad is David's younger brother. He was 16 when David died. Robert sat down across from her. Why are you here? Sarah opened a folder, pulled out a photograph. David Reeves in dress uniform, young and serious and alive. The Army is dedicating the Reeves Armored Training Center next month, Fort Benning. My family is invited. My father asked me to find you, to give you something. She handed Robert an envelope. Inside was an invitation to the dedication ceremony, embossed print, official seal. You are inviting me? Robert could not keep the disbelief from his voice. My father is inviting you. He says Uncle David would want you there. Your uncle died because of me. I stole his recognition for 33 years. I lied about his sacrifice. Why would your father want me anywhere near a memorial to David? Sarah met his eyes. She had David's eyes, serious and clear. Because you finally told the truth. Because you gave up everything to make sure Uncle David got credit. Because Dad says holding on to hate just makes Uncle David's death mean less. He says the best way to honor David is to acknowledge everyone involved, even the people who did wrong. Robert shook his head. I cannot go. I am in prison. I am disgraced. My presence would dishonor the memorial. My father said you would say that. He told me to tell you this. David wrote letters home. My grandparents kept them. In one letter, David wrote about you, about what kind of officer you were. Do you want to know what he said? Robert did not trust his voice. He nodded. Sarah pulled out a piece of paper, old, yellowed, careful handwriting. She read aloud. Captain Hastings is a good officer. He is scared like everyone else, but he does not let it show. He makes hard decisions. He keeps us focused. Sometimes I think he pushes too hard, expects too much, but that is what leaders do. They make us better than we think we can be. I am glad he is my commander. Robert's eyes burned. David wrote that? Yes, 3 weeks before he died. Captain Hastings, my uncle respected you, not the lie you told afterward, but the officer you were during the battle. Dad says that man is still in there somewhere. He says you proved it by confessing. He says Uncle David would want that man at his memorial. Not the fraud, the honest man who finally stopped hiding. She stood. The ceremony is in 2 weeks. I do not know if they will let you out to attend, but the invitation is real. If you can be there, my family wants you there. Sarah left the folder on the table and walked out. Robert sat alone with the photograph of David Reeves and the letter written 3 weeks before death and thought about redemption. How it was not something you achieved, just something you spent the rest of your life trying to deserve. He requested permission to attend the memorial dedication. Expected denial. Received approval. The warden explained that David Reeves's family had petitioned directly. The Army decided that Robert's attendance under escort would demonstrate the importance of accountability and redemption. 2 weeks later, Robert walked out of Camp Lejeune wearing dress blues with no ribbons and no rank. 2 military police officers escorted him to a van, drove him to Fort Benning, took him to a parade ground where 2,000 people gathered around a building that had not been there before. The Reeves Armored Training Center. Modern architecture. Glass and steel. A bronze statue out front showing a tank commander in full gear. The face was David's, young and serious and forever 22. Robert's escorts positioned him at the back of the crowd. Far from the dignitaries and family members gathered near the front, he stood at attention and watched the ceremony unfold. The commanding general gave a speech about courage and sacrifice, about the importance of recognizing true heroism, about how Sergeant David Reeves exemplified the best of American armored forces. Then David's father spoke. Walter Reeves was 89 years old, thin and frail but standing straight. His voice carried across the parade ground. My son David joined the Army at 19. Wanted to serve his country, wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. He was a good boy, a serious boy, the kind who did his job and did not complain. When he died, I was told he served honorably under a great commander. I believed that for 33 years. Walter paused, looked directly at Robert standing at the back of the crowd. Then I learned the truth. My son was not just a good soldier, he was a great one. The best gunner his commander ever saw. He made 9 impossible shots in 3 minutes and saved over 100 American lives. He was the hero, not his commander. The crowd murmured. Everyone knew the story by now. Everyone knew about Robert's confession. Learning this truth hurt, Walter continued. Knowing we were lied to for decades. Knowing David's real achievement was stolen. But you know what hurt more? Thinking about David dying without anyone knowing what he did. Dying as just another soldier instead of the extraordinary man he was. Walter's voice strengthened. Captain Robert Hastings stole my son's glory, but he also gave it back. Not when it was easy, when it cost him everything. He lost his career, his reputation, his freedom. He did this so David could be remembered correctly, so we could stand here today at a training center named for the real hero. He looked at Roberts again. Captain Hastings is here today, in custody, disgraced, paying for his crimes. Some people say he should not be here, that his presence dishonors my son. I disagree. I think David would want him here, because David wrote that Captain Hastings made him better, and maybe telling the truth made Captain Hastings better. Maybe that is David's legacy too, not just being a hero, but inspiring others to become honest. The ceremony continued. The statue was unveiled. A plaque was dedicated. Young soldiers marched past in formation. Everything precise and military and proper. When it ended, Sarah Reeves approached Robert's escorts. May I speak with him? They nodded, stepped back to give space. Sarah stood before Robert. Behind her, the statue of David gleamed in the Georgia sun. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. I do not deserve to be here. Maybe not, but Uncle David would have wanted it. Dad is right about that. You made a terrible mistake, but you fixed it. That counts. Robert looked at the statue, at David forever young and serious and heroic. I took 33 years to fix it. That is too long. Yes, it is, but you still did it. Most people never do. They take their lies to the grave. You did not. That takes a different kind of courage. She handed Robert a photograph, a copy of the picture David had sent home 3 weeks before dying. The tank crew standing together. David and Robert and Holland and Patterson. Keep this, Sarah said. Remember them? All of them. The men you served with. The men who trusted you. Remember that you were good once, for the lie, and maybe you can be good again, after the truth. Robert took the photograph. I will try. That is all anyone can ask. The military police drove Robert back to Camp Lejeune. He served the remaining weeks of his sentence, was released on a cold morning in March with $73 and a bus ticket and no idea what came next. He took the bus to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, found a small apartment, got a job as a custodian at David Reeves Memorial High School. The school had been renamed 2 years after the training center dedication. Sarah Reeves taught history there. Robert cleaned the floors and emptied trash and changed light bulbs. He lived quietly, spoke little, When students asked if he was a veteran, he said yes. When they asked if he saw combat, he said yes. When they asked if he was a hero, he said no. At night, he sat in his small apartment and looked at the photograph of his crew. Four men who trusted each other. Before the lie, before the betrayal, before everything fell apart. He thought about David Reeves making impossible shots, about Khalid al-Rashid choosing mercy, about James Holland finding courage at the end, about Thomas Wayne demanding accountability, about Walter Reeves offering forgiveness. He thought about monuments, how they were supposed to honor truth but often enshrined lies, how bronze and granite were permanent but honesty was fragile, how the only real memorial was in the telling, in acknowledging what actually happened, in giving credit to the people who earned it. Robert was 74 years old. He had no medals, no glory, no legacy except the truth he finally told. But his hands had stopped shaking. On Memorial Day, he visited the statue of David Reeves at the training center, stood before the bronze figure and spoke quietly. "I am sorry it took so long, Sergeant. I am sorry I stole what was yours. I am sorry I made you wait 33 years for recognition. But everyone knows now. Everyone knows you were the best gunner I ever served with. Everyone knows you saved those lives. Everyone knows you were the hero." Robert placed flowers at the base of the statue, stood at attention, saluted. Then he walked away from the monument and back to his small apartment, in his quiet life, in his clean conscience. He had been a coward for 33 years. He had been honest for 7. It was not redemption, just accounting. But it was enough. 5 years after Robert's release, a young Army captain approached him at the high school. "Mr. Hastings, I am Captain Ryan Mitchell, 3rd Armored Division. I am a tank commander." Robert looked up from mopping the hallway. "I know who you are. Sarah mentioned you would visit. You are using the Reeves Training Center for your company qualification." "Yes, sir. I wanted to meet you, to ask you something." Robert leaned on his mop. "I am not, sir. Not anymore. Just Robert. May I ask you a question, anyway?" "Yes." Captain Mitchell chose his words carefully. "How do I make sure I never become what you were? How do I lead with integrity? How do I give credit to my soldiers? How do I stay honest when lying might be easier?" Robert thought about this. About 33 years of lying and 7 years of truth. About monuments built on fraud and memorials that honored real sacrifice. "Tell the truth when it costs you something," Robert said. That is when it matters. When it is easy, everyone is honest. When it is hard is when character shows. Give credit to your soldiers. They do the work. You just get the position. Never steal their glory. Never take what belongs to them. And if you make a mistake, own it immediately. Do not wait 33 years like I did. Captain Mitchell nodded slowly. "What if the truth destroys everything? Then everything you built was false anyway. Better to lose a lie than live one." The young captain extended his hand. Robert shook it. "Thank you," Mitchell said, "for what you did, for confessing, for making sure Sergeant Reeves got his due. That is leadership too. Late leadership, but still leadership." Robert watched the captain walk away. Watched him climb into a government vehicle and drive toward the training center named for a man who deserved it. Toward a facility where young soldiers learned tank warfare from a memorial that told the truth. Robert went back to mopping floors, cleaning windows, emptying trash. The work was honest, the pay was modest, the life was quiet. He was 79 years old. His hands were steady, his conscience was clear. He would never have statues or plaques or monuments, would never have another medal or award or recognition. He had something better, the truth, finally, completely, eternally. That night, Robert sat in his apartment and looked at the photograph of his crew one more time. David Reeves, young and serious, James Holland squinting in the sun, Patterson smiling. Robert himself wearing the confident expression of a man who thought he had everything figured out. He had been so wrong about everything, about what mattered, about what made a hero, about what defined courage. But he had learned. Late. Too late for most purposes, but not too late to matter. The next morning, Robert went to work. Cleaned classrooms, washed windows, changed light bulbs. When students passed, they sometimes said hello, sometimes asked about his service. He told them the truth. About the battle, about the lives won, about the confession, about accountability. Some students listened, some did not care. Robert told them anyway, because truth needed telling, because lies compounded until someone spoke, because the next generation deserved honest examples, even if those examples were cautionary tales. Robert Hastings had been a coward for 33 years. He would spend whatever time remained being honest. Not heroic, not redeemed, just honest. It was all he had. It was enough. On his desk at home sat two items: the photograph of his crew and a letter from Sarah Reeves. The letter was simple. Robert, thank you for working at Uncle David's school. Thank you for telling students the truth. Thank you for being an example of what happens when we finally stop running. You will never be the hero you pretended to be, but you are the honest man you needed to become. Uncle David would appreciate that. So do I. Sarah. Robert read the letter once a week, a reminder that truth served purposes beyond personal peace. That acknowledgement mattered. That honesty was not redemption, but was its own reward. He had been the commander who lied. Now he was the janitor who told the truth. The second role was better, harder but better, humbler but honest. He would die in this role, cleaning floors, telling truth, remembering heroes. It was not the legacy he had planned, but it was the legacy he deserved. And finally, after 79 years, Robert Hastings understood the difference between glory and honor. Glory was what other people gave you. Honor was what you gave yourself by living honestly. He had chased glory for 33 years and found nothing but lies. He had chosen honor for 7 years and found peace. The sun set over Cedar Rapids. Robert sat in his small apartment, looked at photographs of men who deserved better, made a simple dinner, read a book, went to bed early. Tomorrow he would wake up, go to work, clean floors, tell truth. It was enough. It was everything. It was finally right. The commander's last stand was not in a tank, not on a battlefield, not facing enemy fire. It was in a high school hallway, with a mop, telling students what he had done wrong and why it mattered. That was courage, late but real, small but true. Robert Hastings slept without nightmares for the 2000th consecutive night. His hands were steady, his conscience was clear. He had been a liar, now he was honest. The monument in Georgia still stood, bronze tank gleaming, plaque telling a false story. Someday the Army would remove it, or modify it, or explain it. But the monument that mattered was in Cedar Rapids, a high school named for a hero, a statue that told the truth, a legacy built on acknowledgement rather than lies. Robert would die here, in Iowa, far from glory, close to truth. It was exactly where he belonged.